Hello. Well, I'm here to talk about Jaws 2. I already did this a few years back when this film got its 45th anniversary. Had it. And, yeah. Oh, here's my hat for this. There's John Williams and Steven Spielberg and, of course, Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah. But I definitely talked about this film a few years ago, and yeah. And in that video, I don't think I really, I think I pretty much cover the overall gist of the film. Though one thing that's interesting, I don't think I really talked too much about was the behind the scenes about the film. One thing is the director, uh, Jeannot Szwarc, is French, so I'm doing my best, was not the original director. Uh, Now, the original director's name is escaping me right now, so I'll put the name right there. But yeah, the original director got fired, and there's an interview you can find with him talking about his experience and how things were good. But his original idea is like he kind of wanted Amity to have been haunted, really, like a lot of PTSD. Um, really struck the town after the shark attacks of the first film. So when more starts happening, it's things just get sort of throw everybody back to years prior, and yeah. This film is so the first film now takes place in 1974. This film takes place the year it came out, 1978, because on the back here, 4 years after the great white shark terrorizes small resort of Amity, unsuspecting vacationers begin disappearing in all too familiar fashion. Police Chief Morton Brody finds himself in a race against time when a new shark attacks 10 sailboats manned by teenagers, including his own two sons. The same heart stopping suspense and gripping adventure that enthralled movie audiences throughout the world in Jaws returns in this worthy sequel of the original motion picture classic. So, Roy Scheider, pretty sure I mentioned this last, but I think it's better repeating because the previous director, the first director, he got along with Roy Scheider. Things were pretty good with those two. Roy Scheider did not get along with the new director because he preferred the other one, and part way through the film, he was, or as they were shooting, the director got the axe, and so Jeannot was brought in and did the film. I can't recall offhand, but I want to say that some of the stuff the previous director actually shot is in the film, because the way the film was then sort of like reconstructed of sorts, because what he wanted to do, was changed. But yeah, so yeah, it's very interesting just to hear from a director who got fired from a film. You can definitely watch that interview, and hopefully, if I remember, I will actually put that in the description and or pin comment. But yeah, Jaws 2 original director interview. If you type that in on the off chance I don't at all write it or put it in there, you can hear all what he wanted to do and all that stuff. But yeah, Roy Scheider, he did not want to do this film at all. He had a 3-film deal with Universal, and he was supposed to be the lead in The Deer Hunter. So instead of Robert De Niro, it was supposed to be Roy Scheider. But he had disagreements with certain aspects of that film that he thought wouldn't be right for his character. And so because of that, he left, and of course Universal was angry because he has 3 films he is supposed to do, and that is one of them, and he just essentially, broke his contract because, he could choose the movies he wanted to do, but they did not want, they were upset and had grounds to file a legal action against Scheider. So they decided, we'll forgive all of this. Those 3 films you have to do with us, all of that will be gone if you just do Jaws 2. And he didn't want to do Jaws 2 because, as he said, nobody will care about Chief Brody. All people will care about is the shark. And to an extent, I do think he's right about that. About the shark killing people and all that. But, and some people have pointed out, his reluctance to go back to this part probably helps with his performance because he's very, in many ways, unhinged, and he tried to pretend to be insane so that he could be kicked off and fired from this film. Obviously, that didn't happen, and barely, as there have been stories told, which seem to have some good basis in reality, let's just say. He and the director, Jeannot Szwarc, kind of got a bit physical and actual fighting and such. But they had to be, broken up about that. But yeah, this film is actually a pretty good film. I gave the description, but yeah. But yeah, it's one of those films where, in many ways, it should not work at all. And yet it does. And it's actually quite amazing how this film works so well. Because it's a sequel to one of the best films ever made. Many people will put that up on a list of best films and everything of that sort for good reason, And at one point, Steven Spielberg was asked to do Jaws 2, and he kind of was like, I've already kind of did the a shark film. And probably a combination of the fact that, the experiences of making Jaws, which was not a fun time for anybody, because they're making it on the ocean and all, that was probably all, no doubt, fresh in his mind. But also, it's like, I could do the sequel. I know the mistakes, like filming on the ocean, which was not the best thing to do. In many ways, he knows what he could improve on from his experience of the first film, and so in some ways he could perhaps, part of going back and to that world and doing things a bit differently probably did perhaps in a way appeal to him of sorts, because it was interesting to return, but he was more interested in a prequel that was about, Quint and the USS Indianapolis. which wouldn't have been a bad idea, honestly. But we got a film about you know sailboating is the big thing, and Michael Brody is all into it, along with his friends, and of course Sean wants to tag along, and Ellen. There's new renovations going on, and of sorts, like or development. There's new development in Amity, so new places are being built for the for summer resorts and everything. So people, will be more places to stay, as well as people probably buy homes and everything, if not renting, for just this summer. And she's working. There's a guy there, and yeah, there's a lot of confrontations with that main dude and Chief Brody. But yeah, and Murray Hamilton is back along with Lorraine Gary as Ellen Brody. But yeah, Murray Hamilton. A lot of people were like, how did Mayor Vaughn get reelected after the first film? That's a good question, obviously, which we don't ever see. The co-writer of the first film, Carl Gottlieb, returned to co-write this film. We don't see Meadows, and one thing I will say, I don't know if I was fully clear last video, but I mentioned how I thought he worked for the mayor. But he works for the paper and everything. But in some ways, with how the press does help out certain politicians, it wouldn't be too far fetched in a way to see like, oh, he is on the payroll of the mayor, as he's doing all these things to be like, oh, there's no danger, there's no shark, a woman got killed by a boat propeller and this and that. And Howard Sackler is credited as a co-writer. The first director, he's like, the Howard Sackler script, it just wasn't very good. That had to be rewritten and everything. So, yeah. But so yeah, I guess spoilers. This is the last time we see Roy Scheider in Jaws. In the Jaws films. And again, does even though he had no interest in being in a part of this film, he does a good job. But Roy Scheider was always an excellent actor. It's unfortunate how after the 70s his star power sort of waned, and he still did good films and all. Blue Thunder 2010. He was on the TV show Sequest. He was in The Punisher. So he still did good work, and in some notable projects through the rest of his career. But the 70s was really Roy Scheider's time to shine. Unfortunately, in the 80s, he either didn't choose the projects he was being offered that would keep his star power on the top of his game. Which is unfortunate, if that was the case. Like, he had actually excellent, like, top tier film offers that he just didn't take, and so he took other jobs that were, like, of all the stuff he got offered, those are the most interesting and perhaps the best choices that he got. But yeah. And John Williams did the music for this film. It's the last time he does the actual score. The next two films, he's, they use the themes, of course, but the composers do their own thing. So, yeah. Good film. in many ways probably a lot better than it should be. A sequel like this should not be as good. Now, of course, there could be people who like this isn't good at all, in your opinion, and that's completely fine if you don't like this. Though I do believe Scheider, Gary, and Hamilton's performances are all excellent. Um, yeah, that's my look back at Jaws 2 for the 50th anniversary retrospective of the franchise. So hopefully, in the title or whatever, I'll be able to condense that a lot better, but still. I hope all of you are doing well. Hope this month has been very good to you all. It's so far so good for me in July. Um, it is humid and warm, but there has been a decent enough breeze off and on throughout the day, so it's not totally unbearable. Um, Hopefully that's a similar situation to you all. But if not, stay inside, keep cool. As much as you need to. Sometimes maybe people work outside or they go outside a lot to run errands and so on. So whatever you gotta do in this for this month. Though I guess if you live in the southern equator of the world, I guess it would be cool. So in that case, stay warm. Anyway, what do you think about Jaws 2? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Are you somewhere in between? You like certain parts of it, but you don't like other parts of it? And I will say about John Williams' music, it's excellent. And some people actually do think, in many ways, it is even scarier than the first film. Um, I don't know if I agree completely with that, in the sense that, I think the suspense and horror of the first film is truly effective. But there is a good amount of suspense and horror in this film. But they do definitely make it as if, in some cases, like a slasher film, which is unique to a film like this. That doesn't always happen. I mean, yes, people do get eaten and all, but there's quite a bit of people who get attacked throughout the film, and yeah, don't want to say more on the off chance you didn't see my previous video years ago, or you haven't seen this film at all. So yeah, I know I may not have gone too in depth with this film, but yeah. Also, the director of this film, Jeannot Szwarc, he passed away earlier this year, so rest in peace to him. He was 87, I believe. So, yeah. Anyway, again, if you've seen this film, give me your thoughts on it. And, yeah. And I did go to Navarre Beach years ago and did a little video on the beach, and you see it. And Navarre Beach is partly where they shot this film, as well as, of course, Martha's Vineyard, which is where the first film was shot. So yeah, there's other videos who did a very good job of matching up certain locations for this film. So yeah, you can check those out because mine didn't have that. But yeah, please have a great day and a great weekend and a great week. I'll see you all next time.